When you take a look at the worst teams in sports, it simply comes down to bad ownership and awful management. You can't blame the coaches and players that much since they're not the ones making the terrible decisions. I'm Justin Fraction, and today we present the 10 most dysfunctional teams in sports right now. At TPS, we post videos every single day, so don't forget to click the subscribe button to subscribe. Then click the notification bell to be notified when we post a new video. Firstly, a notable omission is the Cleveland Browns. We had them as our most dysfunctional NFL team on a previous video, but with Baker Mayfield and Myles Garrett leading the way, the Browns are suddenly relevant again, and for a good reason. The dysfunction is over with for now. Honorable mentions: Sacramento Kings. No playoffs since the 2006 season, and trading all-star DeMarcus Cousins when he wanted to stay was a terrible mistake. But oh well, at least the Kings were good like 20 years ago. Edmonton Oilers. You have the best player in the world named Connor McDavid. You get 4 first overall picks between 2010 and 15, and you have only one playoff berth since the 2006 season to show for it. What a disaster. Chicago Bulls. Well, at least fans got to see Michael Jordan lead them to 6 championships in the 90s. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hiring Bruce Arians as a head coach is a start, but if he can't fix Jameis Winston, this perennially awful franchise will be set back many years again. Now to the real list. Number 10, Oakland Raiders. This graphic from ESPN.com is a fine way of summarizing all the dysfunction that has hit the Raiders for 15 years. Okay, so you know the Raiders sure as heck can't draft. Why else is there dysfunction? Well, maybe it was a mistake to give John Gruden $100 million to become a head coach again for the first time in 10 years. It was probably a massive mistake to trade pass rushing star Khalil Mack and Pro Bowl wide receiver Amari Cooper too. The Raiders have made the playoffs once since the 2003 season. Once. A year after head coach Jack Del Rio got Oakland to the postseason in 2016, they canned him in favor of Gruden. Yep, that sounds like the Raiders all right. Have fun with this team, Vegas. It's too bad the good fans in Oakland won't get to see much excitement before the Raiders' upcoming relocation. Number 9, Toronto Blue Jays. Don't let their 2 trips to the 2015 and 16 ALCS fool you. This is one mismanaged team to the absolute max. The Blue Jays finally ended a 22-year playoff drought in 2015 when GM Alex Anthopoulos crafted together a championship-caliber team. Their roster was highlighted by all-stars David Price, Josh Donaldson, Jose Bautista, and Edwin Encarnacion. After their run to the 2015 ALCS, Anthopoulos left the Blue Jays, perhaps because he didn't want to work with new team president and CEO Mark Shapiro, who didn't have the same philosophy on building a team. Now, the Blue Jays are once again a laughingstock in the American League. They refused to re-sign David Price, who went on to win a World Series with the rival Boston Red Sox. They didn't re-sign Encarnacion, who left for the Cleveland Indians. They decided not to re-sign Donaldson nor trade him while his value was high. Instead, they pretty much just gave him away to Cleveland following the 2018 trade deadline. So the Jays went from title contender to losing 4 superstar players, all for nothing. Did we mention their manager used to get into fights and arguments with his own players, and that filthy rich ownership group refuses to spend big in free agency? No wonder Scott Boras threw shade at them. The Jays are the prime example of how to be terrible for 2 decades, then build up a contender only to watch it fall apart just 2 years later. If only they decided to keep star players, which by the way help you win games. Number 8, Arizona Coyotes. Because the Coyotes play in a non-traditional hockey market with very few fans, people often forget the dysfunction of this franchise. Why else do you think there have been non-stop relocation rumors for almost a decade? The Coyotes have 2 playoff series wins since relocating from Winnipeg in 1996-97. They haven't reached the postseason since 2012. Why could that be? Oh, you know, horrible management. Their arena deal seems to fall through every year. There are always questions about ownership changes too. The NHL has lost millions annually while trying to support this team. Arizona can't draft at all either. Eesh, they took Dylan Strome 3rd overall in 2015 in a class that was loaded with future superstars. He's since been traded to the Chicago Blackhawks, and they gave up on other highly touted guys like Max Domi and Brendan Perlini early in their careers too. Alrighty then. Move this team to Houston already. Maybe the dysfunction would end once and for all. Do you really think Arizona would miss this mess of a team? Number 7, New York Jets. Remember when the Jets won the Super Bowl a half a century ago? And when they reached back-to-back AFC Championship games in 2009 and 10, those days were fun. Jets fans have had to endure nothing but embarrassing play. The team has been dubbed as a circus for a reason. How else can we put it? That whole Mark Sanchez butt fumble was pretty much a sign of where this team was headed. The Jets haven't made the playoffs since 2010. They've wasted money on free agent signings like Eric Decker, Darrelle Revis, Trumaine Johnson, and the list goes on. Do you remember when Geno Smith broke his jaw before the 2015 season? When his own teammate punched him right in the face because Smith supposedly owed him money? Some locker room, I tell you. What else can we really say? The Jets are going to Jets. There's not a whole lot more we can add here. This team is a complete laughingstock, and why should we believe it'll end anytime soon? Number 6, Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves went 14 years without making the playoffs until they finally qualified again in 2018. But just when things were up in the Gopher state, things began to fall apart in the early stages of the 2018-19 season. All-star Jimmy Butler rejected a contract extension and requested a trade, with reports suggesting that he was fed up with Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins in the locker room. After all this ongoing drama, Butler was finally traded to the Philadelphia 76ers. 2 months later, Minnie fired team president and head coach Tom Thibodeau, as he took the blame for the group's shortcomings. Hey, the coach can only do so much babysitting. Oh, and Minnesota passed on Stephen Curry twice in the 2009 draft, taking Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn over the future NBA champion and league MVP. This team can't play nice, they can't win, and they definitely can't draft. It's truly one dysfunctional, mismanaged team. Even though Wiggins and Towns are two young stars that gave this team some hope, it's hard to see them ever fixing the ongoing mess in Minnesota. Number 5, Cincinnati Bengals. Congrats, Cincinnati Bengals. You are officially more dysfunctional than your Ohio and AFC North counterparts, the Cleveland Browns. Folks, Marvin Lewis was head coach of the Bengals for 16 seasons, and they didn't win a single playoff game with him. And yet, owner Mike Brown refused to make any changes. Yes, Lewis fixed his organization in the mid-2000s and brought more relevance to the Bengals, but his firing came like 10 years too late. The Bengals have also kept troubled players like Vontaze Burfict, aka the NFL's dirtiest player, for way too long. Adam Pac-Man Jones was there forever too. What else? Oh yeah, the Bengals are always consistently millions and millions under the salary cap. Mr. Brown doesn't like spending money, which is too bad because it's kind of necessary in order to win championships. The Bengals' attendance has also seen a decline as fans continue to show their frustration with the team's lack of direction. The Bengals clearly have no idea what they're doing, and you wonder why guys like Andy Dalton and AJ Green and Geno Atkins continue to do so much for a franchise that gives them little in return. Number 4, Miami Marlins. Yeesh. Remember when former Marlins owner Jeffrey Loria signed all those stars before the 2012 season? And when he used taxpayers' money to build that shiny new ballpark, which made the fans mad? Oh yeah, then the Marlins were terrible in 2012, so Luria unloaded those stars to the Toronto Blue Jays, all but ensuring the team stayed horrible forever. And that $634 million stadium remains empty game after game after game, not good. $325 million contract that gave the Giancarlo Stanton sure didn't pan out either. Derek Jeter and the new Miami ownership traded away Stanton, D. Gordon, and Christian Yelich for very little. Maybe try building around your stars next time. Heck, the Marlins are so dysfunctional that they lost the ultimate superfan, the world-famous Marlins man. He now travels to different ballparks all over to watch other teams instead of his Marlins, and we can't blame him. Who wants to support this team that has no idea what they're doing? Number 3, the New York Knicks. Since the Knicks last won the NBA championship in 1973, before pretty much I or anybody at TPS was born, the Big Apple has seen an 80s Islanders dynasty, 4 Stanley Cups, a Rangers Stanley Cup in 1994, 4 Giant Super Bowl championships, 1 Mets World Series, 7 New York Yankees World Series titles. That's pretty good over a 45-year span. Meanwhile, the Knicks continue to nick it up. The Patrick Ewing days were fun in the 90s, even if it didn't lead to a championship. But man, have the Knicks ever been downright horrible in the 21st century? And the Brooklyn Nets aren't much better. So Knicks fans can't really go hopping on the crosstown bandwagon. Since 2002, the Knicks have made the playoffs 4 times. They have 1 playoff series victory. In case you're wondering, that's bad. And think about all the stars the Knicks have traded and or signed in hopes of fixing things. Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire. It goes on and on. Hiring Derek Fisher as head coach? Yikes. And hiring the legendary Phil Jackson as president? Oh my goodness. The Knicks really are the definition of a laughingstock. I wouldn't be surprised if sales to comedy shows in Manhattan fell because people are going to Madison Square Garden to laugh at the Knicks instead. Number 2, Washington Redskins. After the 2018 regular season, we changed our minds and decided the Redskins are kind of the new laughingstock of the NFL. I mean, where can we start? The Washington Post detailed a lengthy piece at the end of the 2018 season that outlines all the dysfunction in this organization. And it all starts with owner Dan Snyder, who continues to show total disregard to the millions of loyal fans. Snyder bought DC's football team in 1999, 2 decades later, and the Redskins have just 5 playoff berths and 2 postseason victories to show for it. Completely shameful. Team president Bruce Allen gets chance after chance to fix this team, and nothing has changed. But Snyder keeps putting all of his eggs into one basket and thinks Allen can change its fortunes. Never has worked, never will work. Per that Washington Post article, the Redskins went from 6th in home attendance in 2017 to 29th a year later, losing around 15,000 fans per game. Snyder keeps the coaching staff and front office intact for no real good reason at all. One of the few good things that happened to this team was Robert Griffin, but the incompetence of the Redskins ruined his career, all because they made him play on a bad knee. Sounds like a dysfunctional organization. We all know. The fans in DC deserve better than this. Well, they do have the 2018 Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals. That counts as something, right? And number 1, Ottawa Senators. Rather than simply read off a bunch of information here, we thought it'd be easier to simply break down all the issues this team has dealt with over the last 2 or 3 years. I'm going to let it scroll, and then I'm going to sit here. Or maybe I'll talk. I don't know. Owner Eugene Melnick always runs his mouth at fans, players, coaches. The owner always threatens to relocate the team. The owner sued his partner after failing on a new arena deal. Attendance in Ottawa plummets more and more each year. Fans have put up hashtag Melnick out signs across town. Captain and franchise star Erik Karlsson was basically forced out of town. Karlsson's wife had to ask for an order of protection from the partner of former Senators player Mike Hoffman for bullying and harassment. Both Hoffman and Karlsson were traded. Assistant GM Randy Lee had to resign after facing harassment charges. Oh, and the Senators are just a terrible hockey team right now. And that's a lot of dysfunction for one sports team. And all of this has only happened in the past couple of years. We feel for you, Ottawa fans. The fans in the Canadian capital deserve better than this. Who do you think is the most dysfunctional team in sports right now? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.